Hello, everyone, and welcome to this Your Overseas Home webinar. Sorry, I missed the joke already. There's no place like the Three Valleys. Buying a home in the world's largest ski resort. I am not responsible for the title, can I just say right off. I am delighted to be joined by Mark Lightfoot from SnowOnly. Mark has been described to me as the ChatGPT of ski property information. Such is his knowledge. But Mark, let's kick off by you telling us a little bit about yourself and SnowOnly.
Thanks, Chris. That's quite the praise, the ChatGPT of ski knowledge. I'll see if I can live up to the expectation. I have been doing real estate for, sadly, around 25 years all over the world. So I have a good understanding of buyers and sellers, etc., and good developments and such and so forth. I started SnowOnly around 10 years ago, when I was living in Thailand, ironically close to the beach. But there was a demand for a ski portal or something that encompasses more than just the local areas, something that kind of encompassed all areas, because there are a lot of people searching for different resorts, and we wanted to gain kind of an overall perspective. So we built SnowOnly, and now it is, I think there's something around 9,000 ski properties on the site in probably over 260 resorts in 17 different countries. And although being English myself, it is not an English site. We have buyers coming from all over the place, UK predominantly, because obviously France lends itself to a lot of UK buyers, but we have people from Australia buying in Japan, Hong Kong, Singapore, expats, people from the Middle East buying everywhere. So it's a real kind of international place with a lot of flavour. So that's what we did, and that's pretty much what we do. So we tend to put the buyers in touch with the sellers because we can't be in 1,000 places at once. So we kind of run it from wherever we are in the world, and that's pretty much where we're at.
Excellent. Okay. Well, we've got 45 minutes, and we're going to be talking about the Three Valleys, and Mark has a presentation, and then we've got plenty of time for your questions, and we're going to be showcasing a couple of resorts as well, a couple of property developments too. I believe I've heard there's been a fantastic load of snow on the area, and everyone's thrilled, and the sun is shining, and the season they think is going to go right through to Easter in mid-April. So that's fantastic news for people looking at the Three Valleys. So why don't we, so we would like to get your questions too. So please put your question in the questions tab on the right-hand side. You should find a little button, type away. I'm the only one who can see it, so you can ask whatever you like. And do, just to get you sort of in the mood, why don't people put down what resort they're thinking they might be interested in at the moment, just so we can get an idea where people are looking. Okay, on that note, I'm going to hand over to Mark, who's going to take us through the Three Valleys.
Yeah, will do, Chris. So I've been even selling ski holidays when I was a little bit younger. So I have been speaking about ski property for probably over 30 years, ski resort. So the Three Valleys is a resort that I've skied many times, fortunate enough to ski many times. So if you don't know the Three Valleys, I will just give you a little bit of a background of what it is, where it is, and the villages that are in the resort. And maybe later on we can talk a little bit about more property stuff that is specific in terms of price per square meter of certain villages. So this is kind of my overall synopsis of the Three Valleys. The Three Valleys is the largest ski resort in the world. It is 600 kilometers of piste in Three Valleys. As you can see on the piste map here, on the left hand side you have Courchevel, in the middle you have Maribel, and on the right hand side, on the right hand valley, you have Val Thorens. Now, what's important in the 600 kilometers of piste is that 400 kilometers of that piste is over 2,000 meters. When people are talking, not this year, but when people have talked in previous years about climate change, and there's definitely been a emphasis on higher resorts, higher altitude resorts for buyers. It's worth noting here that, as I said, 400 kilometers of piste is over 2,000 meters. So the guarantee of snow is pretty much as good as you're going to get. So a little bit more information. There is about 120 kilometers of cross-country skiing, if that's your thing. It is certainly mine. And there's around 183 ski lifts, with the top station at over 3,200 meters. Now, if you start on the left-hand side, where Courchevel, you have different levels to Courchevel. You have Courchevel-le-Prat, which is at 1,300 meters, and then you have Courchevel Village, which is at 1,550 meters, Courchevel-Morillon, which is at 1,650, which is where I'll explain one of the developments. And then you have Courchevel 1850, which I think most people would know as quite a exclusive, luxurious resort. And all those resorts are slightly different in the way that they look and feel, and the people that are in them. In the middle, you have Maribel. Maribel's around 1,800 meters, and then as you come down the valley, you have some more satellite resorts, Maribel Village, Maribel Les Alous, as you kind of come down the valley. But again, still a really good height at 1,800 meters. Again, I will explain a little bit further about Maribel. That's with the development there. And then on the right-hand side, you have, I'm sure this is the highest ski resort in the world at 2,300, which is Val Thorens. If you come down the valley, you have Les Minimes and then Saint-Martin-de-Belleville. Even still at 1,450, they kind of give good access into the three valleys. But Val Thorens at 2,300 is incredibly high for a ski resort. A lot of ski and ski out properties there, and a place for people to go when the snow is good. So overall, a huge ski area. Now, in terms of access to the three valleys, the closest airport would be Chambéry, but most people from an international flight will fly into Geneva. So from Geneva to the three valleys is around 180 kilometers. So depending whether you're going there on the summer or the winter, it might take you anywhere between probably 2.5 to 3.5 hours, depending on how many coaches you're going to be stuck behind, because obviously there's a lot of demand going there, especially on weekends when typically it's a changeover day. So if you're driving up there on a Saturday or a Sunday, it tends to be a little bit more busy. In terms of the ability that you have in the three valleys, because there is so much terrain, you have a real variety of slopes. So it is mixed for all abilities. I've got the stats here. I don't know this off the top of my head, just to let you know. There is 14% green slopes, 40% blue slopes, 36% red slopes, and then 10% are black slopes. So you've got a bit of everything for everyone. I'm sure Chris will ask me later, but there is also a summer season as well as a winter season. So it's an all year round ski resort. So that is kind of a brief overview of the three valleys for you.
Fantastic. Okay, so I'm very impressed with the snow. And like you say, but like you say, if we want a property that we can enjoy ourselves and perhaps rent out for all 4 seasons now. So what happens in the three valleys in the summer?
There's loads to happen really. It is obviously a mountain resort, so there is swimming pools, golf courses, mountain biking, hiking. e-biking, being in the fresh air. The restaurants are open, so it's a fully active place that's in the summer. Actually, since I've been kind of doing selling ski properties or kind of been in the ski area, dual season has become a very big thing for people. And to be fair, even so, people tend not to ski for the 6 days that they might be in resort. A lot of people are doing spas or just rest days, or going to the swimming pools or whatever it is. So there's kind of something for everyone. But they are mountain resorts. So I mean, they still have cinemas and things like that. But it's not London. It is a mountain resort. So usually things that are either relaxing or some sort of physical activity. There's loads of what they call pump parks, when you get the bikes and you kind of pump it up. Yeah. There's loads of that kind of stuff. Well, I was in Maribel about 2 months ago, just before the season, and there's loads and loads of kids riding around on their motorbikes, on their mountain bikes. Just being outdoors. Yeah, super fun.
And you can get the lifts up presumably in the summer and
yeah. So what will happen is in the ski season, you'll put your skis and you'll sit on the chairlift and you'll dangle your skis over the edge, and then in the summer season you'll get a mountain bike and you'll kind of crank it up against the back of the ski lift in front of you, and then you just sit, and then when you get to the top, the guy will just put your bike down and off you go cycling. Yeah, easy.
And all those pistes turn into sort of lovely lush meadows kind of thing, like I'm picturing
basically. Honestly, if no one's been to a ski resort in the summer, I urge you to go. They are the most beautiful places. It is absolutely stunning. Everyone tends to lend themselves to go into places like the beaches, etc. But if you have an opportunity to go to the mountains in the summer, it's a magical place to be. The only, don't make the same something that I fouled on when I first started mountain biking in a ski resort. Don't assume because you can ski it that you can mountain bike it. It's a very, very different technique. I think on my first day I went down a red run on a mountain bike and went over the handlebars quite a few times. And I'm a pretty competent skier, so it doesn't always equate. But like an amazing time. I would recommend anybody to go. Yeah.
And we hear about these resorts being exclusive, being very luxurious, but they're still nice places to go, aren't they? I mean, they're not sort of up themselves, are they? They're a nice place to spend your time.
Yeah, I think that, to be fair, I think that there's a lot of these iconic resorts such as Courchevel, Val Thorens, Maribel, as we're talking about them, get a reputation for sure. Courchevel 1850 has a reputation for being notoriously expensive, with a certain demographic of person buying and going there. I'm not too sure that's 100% the case, but even if you go down to something like 1650 or 1550 in Courchevel, it will be a very, very different feel. And if you go down to Le Prat, for example, it's very, very authentic. All these resorts are very different in the way they look. So if you go to Val Thorens, although it's evolving a lot in the last 2 or 3 years because people are kind of buying properties and renovating it, it's a purpose-built place essentially. So it's let's say not as pretty as a more authentic resort that maybe people would appreciate, but still a beautiful place to be in the summer.
Okay. So let's talk about, firstly, we have to mention the Winter Olympics coming up in 2030, some of which is in Courchevel, I believe. So I guess the infrastructure is going to be sensational over the next 5 years. Yeah.
I think it's worth kind of pointing out that places, I think for any person that is looking to purchase, a little bit of a golden rule is that you have to make sure that the infrastructure is being put into these places when you're buying, if you want some sort of capital appreciation. The Three Valleys, as we know, is probably the most famous ski resort, certainly in France, if not the world. Everyone kind of knows about it. So to have something like the Winter Olympics there, I think is just good for the resort and the people that are there, because the infrastructure is going to be put in terms of fast access lifts, and just basically a platform for them to show off, to get more people. Essentially that's what they want to do, isn't it? To get more people to go to the Three Valleys skiing and give it that exposure. So it can't fail, can it?
Okay, we're going to talk about individual properties shortly, but just the property buying process. Firstly, international buyers are extremely welcome. I would imagine it's not like
yes, anyone is welcome.
Okay, and there's no restrictions on what we can buy, what we can rent out.
No, there's no real restrictions. You can buy it as an individual or a company. France is one of the places that allows pretty much any buyer to purchase, whereas Austria and Switzerland have pretty big restrictions about who can purchase. The reason that we probably get a lot of British people buying in France, because anyone can purchase there. Yeah.
Okay, and what should we budget for on top of the purchase price for costs?
On top of the purchase price, so there's two things that you should really kind of take into account, and that is, and I'll explain these on the developments that we will talk about, but typically, as a golden rule of thumb, any new development that is under 5 years old, the notary fees are 2.5%. And then anything which is a resale, which is typically over 5 years old, is anywhere between 8 to 9% notary fees. And obviously that makes a bit of a difference. If we're talking some serious money of, like, let's say 10 million plus, maybe to those people it wouldn't make much of a difference. But if you've got a budget of maybe 300,000 and you're pretty stringent on that budget, that can be the difference between paying, I can't work it out, something like around 8,000 in comparison to 30,000 extra, which can be a lot of money, and to be fair, can make it kind of unaffordable for people. There's a lot of new build property being built everywhere, and there is a benefit to that, and I can explain that later. But that's a lot of the reasons why there's with new build property. Also, you have stage payments, which means you don't obviously have to pay everything up front, and then the 20% rebate that you get if you enter it into a rental situation. So that's basically the benefit of it, but it doesn't work for everybody, and some people want to buy a resale because they want a larger chalet, and that's the only one that they can get, so they'll happily pay the fees. It's not as if they don't sell, it's just where the demand typically is, and especially for people that are coming from abroad when they're not really using it very often. So they want to put it into a rental program and reclaim the 20% VAT.
Now, I understand you kind of break down the buying process into four stages. So take us through those 4 stages.
Yeah, so this is not just typical for ski property. It's for any property in my experience, but for the ski property, it seems very relevant. So first of all, for our experience, why people come to SnowOnly is because we've kind of developed relationships over the past 8 to 10 years with the most, let's say, trustworthy developers and the best agents. So that is where we generally start and advise people to come to us. We don't advise, or maybe they don't have the relationship that they have with us, but we don't advise to go and speak to people that we don't really trust or that aren't particularly good at their job. So we try to steer people in the best direction for the best situations that suits their criteria. We do this for a reason, and we've done it for a long enough time, so we can give the best advice. So that's always the best way to start. The second one, it doesn't always have to be an option for people, but is to go down the mortgage process. Now, what people tend to do is they tend to think that it's when they're at the beginning of their search that all of these things aren't really necessary yet. They tend to want to find their property first. And we tend to encourage them to at least speak to the people that I will talk about now. So when you do come to finding the property, you're in a position to move forward. The problem is a lot of people, what happens, as I just explained, is that they find a property and then they work backwards and then go to the mortgage person or the currency or whatever it is, or the notaire of how they're going to purchase, and then realize that they can't do it or can't afford it. So it's just about getting your ducks in order. So we have access to a really good guy that has access to about 65 French banks, which we recommend speaking to about a mortgage if that's the way that you want to go and you don't want to do a cash purchase. Secondly, we highly recommend, because it's an overseas purchase, to speak to our currency partners, because that could be the difference of you being able to afford your property or not afford your property, especially when we are looking at off-plan property, which has sometimes 12 to 18 months of stage payments. You want to know exactly how much you're paying at the beginning and how much you're paying at the end, and not run the risk of the flexibility of you might have to pay 5, 10, 15,000 euros more that you actually can't afford. So again, these are free conversations to have. And the last one is that we recommend to speak to a notaire early, just to understand all the costs. Some people like to buy through a company, some people like to do it individually, some people want to put it in other people's names. Again, these are all kind of free services until you're allowed, until you kind of make the step forward with the purchase. But at least all those ducks are in order, and you can move forward with peace of mind that you can afford stuff. You have your currency sorted, and you have a notaire to kind of notarize everything. That's what we recommend.
Okay, great. So we know how to buy. We definitely know what we want to buy there. So take us through a few of your developments, or the ones that you would recommend.
Yeah. So I just want to put this out there before. I know everyone has, we know more than most people that everyone has very different budgets, and it's not always, these developments aren't always suitable to everybody. So if you do have a slightly different budget, or these developments don't kind of appeal to you, then please let us know, and we can find you something that is suitable, that works for your needs. So the first kind of one I wanted to look at was a development from Alpine Lodges in Courchevel-Morillon, which is at 1650. And this is the development, or this is what the development will look like. There are actually two developments by Alpine Lodges, one called the Sundance and one called Steamboat. They are very, very similar. The Sundance I will kind of show you now. They are both available for completion in December 2025, so in about 11 months from now, which works for a lot of people in terms of their extra stage payment, but they don't want to leave it too long before they move into the property. So this could be ready for you for next high season. Obviously, we're in Courchevel 1650, so an iconic resort, and very, very well known. So there are a few slides. I will just whiz through a few slides. This is just to give you an idea of what it's like internally. So with Alpine Lodges, they've been building, and this is one of the things I said earlier about kind of having trusted partners. They've been building for 28 years. They've built 649 properties, as you can see here, 77,140 square meterage of properties built. So we know what they're building, we know what their quality is, so there isn't any, there's no surprises when you purchase a property with maybe a brand new developer. You know exactly what you're getting. It is the RON seal. It does exactly what it says on the tin. So just on this slide here, they also have properties in Leger, Megève, Vallées, Tignes, Courchevel and Maribel currently at the moment and for sale. So if any of those resorts appeal to you, then let us know and we can obviously send you details, but we'll stick with Sundance for a little bit. So this is Courchevel 1650 as a village. I think it's kind of important to let everyone know that in all these ski resorts, whether it's Le Prat, 1550, 1650, 1850, Maribel, Val Thorens, they're not that big. They're not London. So when opportunities like Sundance or any of the other ones that I explained come up, it really is an opportunity to move forward with something if it suits your needs. As I said, there are not many properties available for sale that suits people's criteria. And when you get these new developments by these trusted developers, there's something that doesn't have to be purchased, but should certainly be considered. As we explained before, an active winter and summer season. Yeah, I mean, judging by that picture, I think I prefer to be there for summer, but let me just move forward a little bit. So within this development, you have 43 apartments, and actually let me just give you some stats here. And in the Steamboat, you have 28 units. Now, the prices for these 43 lodges, they're generally from 3 to 6 bedrooms. In the Sundance, the ones that are left remaining are 1.2 million up to 6.2 million, and in the Steamboat around $1 million up to about 5.3 million. So they're certainly not cheap by any stretch of the imagination, but we are talking about probably the most well-known resort in one of the most well-known ski areas. This would be this is stuff that we can send you in terms of where the units are located within the resort and how much they are available for. As you can see, very standard stuff. And within the Sundance and the Steamboat development, this tend to be run as hotels, as such that they offer a concierge 5-star service. Alpine Lodges actually have a subsidiary company called the Alpine Collection, of which they do all the rentals and which they've been doing for 28 years. So they have a flow of people that they can put straight into these new developments. So in terms of your rental, it doesn't have to build up for the first 3 years. It's pretty much ready to go with people that are keen to rent. Here's a typical view that you will get sunning yourself from the jacuzzi after a good day's skiing, maybe in March or April. Also, as I said, receptionist, concierge, 5-star service. Within the development, there's always a spa in case you don't fancy doing the skiing. Yeah, a spa. Restaurants within the development as well. There we go, nice restaurants. They also have ski rooms to hire skis, so you can literally do it straight from your door. Ski room, there we go, ski shop, all literally on your doorstep, ready to go. Now the Sundance and the Steamboat, as I said before, is about 150 around 150 meters from the ski slope, so although not ski in, ski out, very, very close to the skiing. Now what is important, I will just leave you on this one here. What is important with Alpine Lodges, and I'm sure Chris will ask me, is that 99% of buyers will buy a unit in the development and then rent it out, which allows you to claim the 20% VAT rebate. So if we do some easy maths, if it was $1 million, €1 million, and you wanted to claim the VAT rebate, you would have to pay the €1 million and then claim back the 200,000. And this is usually prepaid within something like 6 months to a year. Now, what Steamboat and Sundance are doing as a promotion, and which is why it's, despite the fact that the snow is falling and the sun is shining at the same time and everyone's very happy at the moment, What they are doing with the 20% VAT is that Alpine lodges are prepaying the VAT, which means you don't have to find the 1 million to get back the 200,000. You just have to pay the 800,000 through the stage process. So that 200,000 will be reclaimed by Alpine lodges, and as long as you enter into the rental agreement, which 99.9% of people do. And this is the only development that I know in France that does this. And it's no surprise that the properties are selling super quick. I mean, we've had people looking in the last 2 weeks. I think around 6 or 7 units have already sold within the last 2 weeks. So it's definitely moving very quickly. But with everything, if you put it all into one package, the ski resort, the location that was in the resort, in the three valleys, in a place where they're going to have the Olympics, the spas, the history of the developer. If you put it all in one thing, that's why people are buying it, and that's why it will hold its value and have appreciation the other side. And with the internal rental, it's easy to rent it. So in terms of our tick box of 10, I'd say this is pretty much as good as you're going to get. People think that this is available all over France. Well, it isn't. And that is why people are buying into it. So that is the Sundance. This also applies to the Steamboat. If you want details on it, let me know and I'll send you over some more details. Before I kind of move on to the next one, Chris, because I realise I'm chatting a lot, you have any questions on it?
Well, I guess, how is the... so is there an average kind of return on investment if I'm renting it out? And also, how many weeks do most people take, or is that entirely up to you?
So, no. So historically, what people used to do, they used to have an outright purchase or a leaseback, and a leaseback agreement, which people like MGM do, gives you an allocated amount of weeks, but it's pretty structured in terms of obviously what allocation you allow. Usually it's 2 weeks in the high season, 3 weeks in the summer season, and then some sort of interchanging in between. You can swap 2 weeks for 1 week, and etc., etc. But there's kind of a middle ground at the moment, and the rule of thumb, as long as you rent it out for probably 50%, then you're okay to use it for the other 50%, and you can still reclaim your VAT. But it just depends where you're from and how often you want to use it. The higher returns that you're going to get, if you're going to use it over Christmas, New Year, Chinese New Year, Russian New Year, Valentine's Day, and Easter, you're not going to get much return on your investment. But
No.
if you use it in, I don't know, the 10th of January and the 19th of March, and that's pretty much it, then your return on investment is going to go high. Now, for rental returns in ski property, they're typically not that high. So if you're looking for something 7-8% net return, I suggest you probably play the stock exchange or do something different. But it's not really about that. Like the idea is that you're having a property, a lifestyle property that gives you good returns that'll easily cover your mortgage and all your expensive, and hopefully some change to be able to spend on some lift passes and things like that. And the capital appreciation, I think according to Knight Frank or Savills in Courchevel 1850 was 9%.
Wow.
So it's a lot. Yeah. So that's really where you're going to find it. But I don't think anything kind of like are going to replace the memories that you have for having a ski property. And essentially that's why people buy and sell properties. Yeah.
Okay. Well, there's questions coming in from our audience, so let's ask a few of those. So Jason has asked, annual service charge. What might that be?
Yes, annual service charge is dependent on the developer, but I would give you an estimate that we have spoken to people recently that is anywhere between 30 and 80 euros per square meter.
30 and 80. So 3 bedrooms. Presumably, you're getting not far up from 100. square meters. Okay, so
it's not a huge amount, right?
no,
300
no, it's not.
euros. So what's that? 3,600 euros, maybe up to 7,000 euros a year.
Yeah. Okay.
But can I if you just point out, Chris, some people do it slightly differently. If you go to somewhere like MGM, they will cover all of those costs, but it's more a traditional leaseback property. So you won't have any expenses, but then the returns will be almost negligible, but the capital should be okay. So it just depends what works for you.
Sure. Okay. Paul is asking, how long does the rental agreement last for? How many weeks do you have to rent it out for? I think you've already answered, but
I think she's referring to the fact that if you enter it into a rental agreement to reclaim the VAT, you have to rent it for 20 years.
Got it. Right. Okay.
Yeah. But there is you can pro rata it if you don't want to be in the rented agreement, but it just means you have to pro rata what you need to pay back.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess, and on top of the service charge, you've got local taxes. Can you give us an estimate of what you pay in, I guess, the equivalent of our council tax?
Yeah, I actually, it's funny you should say that, because again, it's a variable. But I spoke to a lawyer when we were chatting this morning about it, and he said it's a negligible fee. It's not. It's so small, it's ridiculous. The only additional cost you're going to have is obviously the service charge, sinking fund. But again, that will be based on the developer. So I can't give you an exact price, but there will be a sinking fund for obviously your committee to do things like roofs, things moving forward, any insurance, and then utilities. But the utilities, it depends when you're in the rental of how much the developer pays in terms of the utilities. They might only charge you for the utilities when you use it. But all these costs are not a huge cost. Yeah.
And I guess there's no one's trying to rip you off, are they, with some of these? I mean, it's not like entering into some leasehold arrangement in the UK where you can suddenly, have a huge charge. It's all very well protected, and it's all very well guaranteed, and it's all safe.
Yeah, there's never been any kind of bad things in terms of that, not as far as I know. Anyway, and that's why we tend to put in touch with good developers that are kind of moving forward with that. France is pretty good in terms of just to kind of cover a little bit. France is really good in terms of buying, protecting buyers. They will basically. The banks will cover the finish of any build as long as it is 50% sold. So generally nothing happens until 50% is sold in terms of the value. And then they will offer a GFA certificate to allow the person to build it. But if they default on the payment in terms of the building, the banks will then finish it off. There is also if you reserve a property, you have a 10-day cooling off period, which basically means there is a non-committal process from a buyer. You can pretty much take it or leave it and go, I don't want to do it anymore, and that's fine, and there's no penalties. But after then 10 days, you're kind of committed to it. So even if you reserve a property, it gives you 10 days to walk away from the ski resort, and maybe the bubble bursts and you realize you get back to your normality of life and go, I can't afford this, then
sure,
you can just pull out.
Okay, let's move. We're running out of time, so let's move on to the next development.
Yeah, the next development for me is I've just been to this development, actually. It's super exciting. This is a slightly different, it's not a brochure, so it's a little bit quicker. So Rising Stone are one of the biggest developers in Maribel, and they are at the moment currently building 3 developments. And the 3 developments are the Fleur des Alpes, the Lac Bleu, and the Alba. And the Fleur des Alpes is finished this year in December, or last year in December. That's just finished. The Alba is going to finish in December 2025, and the Lac Bleu is going to finish in December 2026. Now, they don't do the VAT, prepay the VAT like Alpine lodges. So, as I said, not everyone does it. But if you have a look here in Maribel, on this slide, you can see the Fleur des Alpes, which is quite clearly on the right-hand side, and then on the left-hand side, you'll be able to see the Morel chairlift. That Morel chairlift will take you up into Maribel and then over to Courchevel, which is where you can see that mountain go up the back. So just out of these two developments, the Fleur des Alpes has, as I said, just finished, and they are selling super fast. All these developments are selling fast because of the fact that there's people in resort. They sell from 2.1 million to 3.7 million in the Fleur des Alpes, and they are offering free furniture package, so it's like a turnkey property, again with ski shop. They don't have swimming pools, but they will offer the rental services just like Alpine lodges, and that is around 80 meters from the Morel chairlift. Then you have the Lac Bleu, which is the one that I like. I was fortunate enough just to stand behind the Morel chairlift recently. This is available to finish in December 2026, but it allows obviously the prepayment of everything. So the Lac Bleu is from 3.6 million up to around 10 million, but again there's only around 8 units left because it's selling super quick. It's very difficult to find ski and ski out properties in Maribel, such as the way the resort kind of lies, which is why the price tends to go up a little bit. But as you can see here, you get swimming pool, spa, fitness, wellness, all within the development. This would be a typical unit. This is 402. This is a typical floor plan, so you will get generally 3 bedrooms and then a cabin. Most people, if they see a property with a cabin, it's generally a small room. It doesn't really have any windows, but it's a good bunk room for the kids. So if you're a family and you want 2 bedroom, you can sometimes get 1 bedroom plus a cabin, and then you can still accommodate children and yourself. And this is the view that you will get from, for example, unit 402 over to the other side of Maribel. That would be your morning wake up view. You can decide how much you think that's worth yourself. And then obviously the internal, really high quality of finishing. Yeah, beautifully designed, easy to rent. This is kind of like, for me, the evolution of skiing. I'm sure anyone that's kind of listened to this remembers going into ski properties that were maybe a little bit old and a little bit worn, and now in places like Val Thorens, they're kind of like knocking them down and renovating them to quality of this kind of standard. And this is really where the demand is. Sadly, for people with not much money, there is a lot of people with a lot of money, and this is the kind of thing that they're after at the moment. As you can see, a very nice quality. I can send this to anyone should they want to send it on WhatsApp or email, no problem. And this is the development here. So it's ski in, ski out in Maribel. Fleur des Alpes is about 80 meters, and the Alba, which only has 3 units left, they're at like 7 to 8 million, again, ski in, ski out. So as we know, a slightly higher price point for these properties, but not lacking in demand by any stretch of the imagination. A lot of people are buying them. Yeah, that was brief, Chris, but there we go.
Well, it's fantastic. I mean, it's absolutely gorgeous, and I guess it's, if one is this the kind of thing one can buy now and then sell in a year or two at a profit? Is there any sort of is it cheaper to buy off plan, I suppose, is what I'm trying to ask.
I think there's more demand for off plan. So if you look at something like Maribel, which is really interesting, and I realize that we've run out of time, so I'll be as quick as I can. The thing with Maribel is there's no land left. Yeah. So you have a incredibly iconic resort in an incredible iconic ski area with no land left and massive demand. So once these properties are finished building, they've got a few developments here, about 6 or 7 developments in Maribel that are finishing off building. If anyone wants to buy there, which of course there will be people that want to buy there is only a resale market to kick in. it's not like some of these maybe resorts that have a big expanse. Like if you look at Niseko in Japan, it's still got so much land to cover, and it's pushing further and further away. Maribel doesn't work like that, for example. So there'll always be demand, and the capital appreciation will go up once all these developments have been built, because you can only buy a resale after that. So in terms of investment, they're pretty secure moving forward, because as you said, you've still got another 5 years until the Olympics. So you could get in and flip them if you wanted to, but I don't think many people do much flipping in ski properties, because once they've got it, they don't really want to let go of it. Yeah.
Okay, sure. Well, we have run out of time. We want to talk about some areas where you could buy some less expensive properties, but we haven't got time for that, I'm afraid, today. But do please contact Mark and discuss your budget, because there's certainly alternatives, and we would love to we'd love to hear from you. So thank you very much, Mark. Your contact details, I think we can find you via, I think there will have been an email. There'll be everyone who's attended should get an email. We'll have your contact details if they haven't already been able to Google Mark Lightfoot at SnowOnly, which I'm sure they can do. So, yeah. A reminder to people that we have our virtual event coming up on the 22nd of March. Mark will be there. We'll be talking. You'll have a whole day to ask all your questions about buying property in all your favorite countries: France, Italy, Spain, and which all have ski properties, of course, and they're all on SnowOnly too. So that's on the 22nd of March. Do register for that now. We'd also just to ask if you found this presentation useful. You could leave a review on Trustpilot, which would be really helpful, and there may be a link coming up there now. There you go. And so thank you for doing that. Thank you for your excellent questions. Thank you, Mark, for your fantastic presentation, and good luck to everyone on their search for that perfect ski property. Thank you very much.
Thank you.